Hello and welcome to Nerd Talk. I am the Real Comic Book Gamer, or Dylan, and I'm not joined by my co-host John today because he is busy. So I decided to take this opportunity to talk about Man of Steel, my favorite superhero movie of all time, and hopefully by the end of this podcast you guys will realize why it is my favorite superhero movie. Now, sorry if I sound real nasally, I am stopped up currently, but please bear with me. So, yeah, let's get into it. Man of Steel. I am a huge Superman fan. Superman is my favorite superhero of all time. I grew up with the character. He's very near and dear to my heart. I love Superman. So, prior to Man of Steel, there was only one version of Superman in media that I actually liked, which was All-Star Superman. I thought that was a really good animated movie. Now, the Christopher Reeve movies, I did not like. That was not Superman. I was not watching Superman on the screen. The reason for that is, if you look at some of the stuff he did, he slept with Lois Lane, which that is a big no-no for Superman. Superman did not do that. He had a kid with her because Superman Returns is a continuation of what happened with Christopher Reeve. That doesn't happen, especially before they're married. That Superman is not like that. Superman does not do that. He killed Zod with a smile on his face, threw that weird S on him. That was just so weird. And then he was constantly pulling powers out of his butt, which was sort of the thing that the old Silver Age Superman did, but not really the 1978 Superman. He didn't really do that near as much. But in the Christopher Reeve movies, he was doing it constantly. He had a mind-wiping kiss. He went back in time and stopped people's death. It was just... Now, those movies did have some good elements, but I did not like them. I liked Christopher Reeve as Superman, but the character he was playing was not Superman in my eyes. It just... No, they got the whole Superman-Lois relationship all wrong, and I did not like those movies. And then you had the Superman the Animated Series, which in my opinion was terrible, because they did sort of what The Flash is doing now, except The Flash is a good show. They just made Superman, they brought him down so much, because they're like, oh, you know what, we can't do anything with Superman, he's too powerful, he's too boring, we're gonna have him get the crap beaten out of him every episode. Otherwise, people won't like him. They'll think, oh no, he's too powerful. The thing that people don't realize that Man of Steel got right was you don't bring Superman down, you bring the villains up. That's what you do. You have to get people just as powerful as Superman to fight Superman. You don't bring Superman down. That is just retarded and stupid, and only ignorant people do that. And that's what the people who made Superman the Animated Series are. They were ignorant. Look at what they did. They had him fighting a Livewire. When even in like a Batman Superman book, they call Livewire a B-level villain because she is. The only cool thing she can do is like travel through power lines. But they had him getting his butt kicked by her and that fire lady, I don't remember his name. And it was just so bad. And the thing is, even these villains, there were some interesting stories involving them in the comics without bringing Superman down. That's all you have to do. The thing that these people don't realize is, hey, you know what? Instead of just bringing Superman down, or even doing like I say and bringing its villains up, look at all the comics you have to draw upon for inspiration. Look at this. You can just take one of these stories and transport to screen. People will love it. And that's what a lot of the comics do, is they just make Superman's villains more powerful. They don't dumb Superman down. That is so stupid. And it's just, you don't do that. It's retarded and it makes for a bad series, which is to me what the animated series was. And then Justice League came around. Justice League did the same exact thing. Then Justice League Unlimited came around, did the same exact thing. They all just dumb Superman down. And I'm sick and tired of it. And then All-Star Superman came around. That was a good movie. They only cut stuff out that needed to be cut out, because that is a long book. All-Star Superman is 2 volumes, and it's pretty long, so they couldn't fit every single thing into it. But the movie was good. It got the point across. It was a great movie. And it really did capture the comic in movie form. And then Man of Steel came around. Well, I forgot. Superman Returns came out before All-Star Superman. That movie was terrible. That was like as bad. That was worse than Superman 4, I'd say. It was bad. What was his name? Brandon Routh's costume looked like cheap cosplay. It looks like Captain America's suit in the Avengers. It looks terrible. And then, like, the way they had the swirl, it was bad. The girl who played Lois was bad. Everything. I hated that movie. It was bad. The Kryptonite looked fake as can be. There was no action at all. Like, nothing happened. It was terrible. And then Man of Steel rolls around. I went to see it at midnight. I was so hyped for this movie. And it did not let me down. And every time I've watched it, I've seen it like a billion times. I've seen this movie so many times. Realistically, I've seen it probably like over 10 times, I'd say. Yeah, definitely over 10 times. I've seen it so many times. I saw it twice in theaters, and then I've watched it a ton of times on DVD. I love the movie, and it's like every time I watch it, I like it more and more. So let's delve into Man of Steel and start from the very beginning. Krypton. Krypton was done in this movie better than it's ever been done before, and I mean that in comics or in media. Like, it was so interesting, because before, Krypton had some interesting elements. I like seeing some stuff. Like, there was this comic to where it showed that Jor-El had scouted out Earth before, and he gave technology to Thomas Wayne. Thomas Wayne, like, Wayne Industries was failing, and since he gave this technology to him, it brought Wayne Industries back up, so Wayne Industries would have failed without that Kryptonian technology. It was also saying that, like, he was planning on maybe the Waynes taking Clark Kent in. Well, he wasn't, Clark Kal-El in. And that was just really interesting. But that was one of the few interesting things in the comics about Krypton. Besides that, Krypton was kind of just, hey, it's the place where Superman came from. That's kind of it. Man of Steel, it was awesome. It was sci-fi. It was so good. Zack Snyder made Krypton awesome. He made Jor-El awesome. Laura was alright. She wasn't in it enough to really, for me to be like, oh, Laura's cool too. Now, some people may be saying, well, everyone's, genetically coded. How the heck did Jor-El beat Zod, the military leader? Well, I have two theories about that. My first theory being the fact that Jor-El is Krypton's foremost scientist. He is obviously smart enough to where he was coded to be incredibly smart, to be a scientist. He got so smart that he broke out of the barrier of what they thought could happen, like with the intelligence of them, so he was able to figure out, hey, what we're doing is completely wrong here. That's why he decided to have a natural birth. That's why he didn't go through the whole codex crap. That's why he figured out to train himself to become better. Or the codex was a little faulty. Something happened. Obviously, you have millions of babies that are made by this whole codex and everything. Well, it's possible for some to become faulty, but I think the first one's my main thing, is the fact that I think since he was created to be incredibly smart, he figured it out. He figured out this is all wrong. None of this should happen. So he was able to train himself, prepare himself for this day to fight against Zod. And that's what I think about that. Now, again, Krypton was awesome. I love the way everything was done, how everything was handled on Krypton. It was so cool. Because originally, before going into Man of Steel, I was a little worried because I heard, like, oh, the first 15 or 20 minutes is on Krypton. I was like, let's get to Superman. I want to see Superman. Then when I saw it, I was like, this is awesome. It was so cool. And then we get to Superman, and we get to see what he's doing. He's trying to figure out where he's coming from, what's going on. He's trying to figure out Krypton. He's trying to figure out, who are my real parents? Where did I come from? He's on this whole journey to figure himself out, and I love journey-style movies. And the way the origin was handled in this was great, in my opinion. Now, some people, hated the flashbacks for some reason, but I'd rather have that than, say, Amazing Spider-Man, where it's just origin in your face constantly. Just constantly like, hey, here's this, here's this, here's this. Instead, they're like, we'll give you flashbacks. We'll, in small little pieces that you can just digest easily. And they were interesting flashbacks. They saw what built the character. It made us see what built the character of Clark Kent, of Superman, what made him who he is. And I loved the flashbacks. And we got to see his two father figures. Obviously Jor-El wasn't part of the flashbacks, but he was with the AI, wasn't a flashback. Now, that being said, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, a lot of people hated him and was like, this guy's crazy. Now, originally when I saw the trailer for Man of Steel and I saw that he's like, maybe you should have let him die, I was like, what? Jonathan Kent would never say that. But then I watched the movie and it made sense to me. I was like, okay, he would rather have those kids maybe die. He didn't say, yep, definitely those kids should die. He was like, maybe he was conflicted. It was showing Jonathan Kent is not a perfect person. He doesn't always have the answers. He obviously did not want those kids to die, but he didn't want his son to be taken away from it or bombarded by the military. He obviously didn't want one of them to die or one of them to go away. He didn't want that to happen. That's why he was like, maybe, I don't know. He was a conflicted father that did not want his son to be taken away from him. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't know how to handle the situation. That's what I thought was great. It was a faulty father trying to do the best for his son, but he didn't know what was going on. Now, it was stupid with the fact that Pete Ross's mom came. I was like, your kid saved my son. Don't you know he's not supposed to do that? That's bad. Now, that was retarded. I thought that was stupid. It's like, really? You're going to go yell at the kid's parents who saved your kid in a bus full of children? Yeah, you're real smart. Now back to Jonathan Kent. Jonathan Kent, like, his main message to me was they didn't really say it was heavily implied, but how he's like, well, people aren't ready for you, son. Who knows how they'll react, what they'll do. What he was really meaning was Superman was not ready. Clark Kent was not ready for when he revealed himself, for people's reactions, for what would happen to him. He was not ready. He could not handle that responsibility. Because we see later on it plays out in the fact that he gives himself up to the military. And that was a huge step for him. He was still struggling with it. That's why he asked that preacher. But he was still able to, but you see that he took advice from Jonathan Kent and used it. That's how he was like, okay, I'm ready now. And he was ready to give himself up for humanity, and he did that there. And I saw that as sort of what Jonathan Kent was saying to him prior. I was like, where they're not ready, what he really was meaning was, you're not ready. And he was right, because who knows what teen Clark Kent would do. Adult Clark Kent didn't really even know what to do, and then he was ready. It's like, okay, I can take this leap of faith and give myself up to humanity. I thought that was really well done. Now, his other father, Jor-El, I really liked Jor-El. I loved Russell Crowe as Jor-El. I thought he did a great job. He was very Obi-Wan-like, and he was a good father, and he was good at showing a completely different perspective than Jonathan Kent, because where Jonathan Kent was like, they're not really ready for you yet. You're great, but you're not really ready yet for these people's reactions. You're not prepared for what's going to happen. Jor-El's whole thing was, you can be the best of both worlds. You can be a leader. You can be a thing of hope. You can make sure they don't screw up like we did. And he was telling him all about what happened with Krypton. He was educating him about what happened and telling him about, all about Krypton. And I thought that was really cool, seeing just another side of it. And then you have Martha Kent, who was great as well. I love Diane Lane as Martha Kent. I thought she did a great job. Especially, like, in that one flashback scene where he's in the closet. He's like, the world's too big, Mom. And she's like, just make it smaller. Focus on my voice. There's an island. Do you see it? And I love that scene. That scene was great. It showed what Martha Kent is all about. How she loved her son. And she wasn't in the movie a whole lot, but she was great. And we saw, that. I love that scene where Superman goes and he saves Martha from Zod when Zod's, interrogating her, like, where's the Codex? And they just, get away from my mother. That was great. Showing how passionate Superman is, because a lot of people think Superman's just a guy that always does the right thing and kind of emotionless. Well, there we saw, he was a little rage-filled from what happened because Zod was interrogating his mother, and he wasn't too happy about that. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when he first flies. That is so good. When Jor-El just gives him the suit, and he's like, you need to test your limits. And so he does, and he flies, and Henry Cavill does a great job with displaying Clark Kent's emotions there. Like, he's like, I'm flying! He's never done anything like this before. He's done some extraordinary things, but now he's flying! He's defying gravity! This is just amazing! And he's flying super fast, and like, how excited Henry Cavill looks on that. He did a great job with showing his emotions. That was so good. And the scene, like, the music matched it perfectly. Everything was great about it. That scene was fantastic. He's flying around, like, through the ocean, then he flies through a herd of animals. It's just great. I love that scene. It's one of my favorite scenes in any superhero movie. It's so good. But what about Lois Lane? Now, I didn't really care too much for Lois Lane. I thought she was an alright character. I didn't care for the casting. Amy Adams, to me, I would have preferred someone like Olivia Wilde. They could have at least had Amy Adams dye her hair, but still, I just don't think, like, I wish they would have gotten someone different. I don't think Amy Adams was the right choice. Her and Henry Cavill did have good chemistry, though, like, when they're in that, in the interrogation place, at the military base, and they're just talking. I thought that was good. They had good chemistry, but I didn't really care for Amy Adams as her, and the way the character was used, how she was able to just figure out Superman's identity right off the bat, like, really easily. She did all that research, but I would have preferred her not to, because one of my favorite things about Superman is the fact that in the comics, Clark Kent won Lois Lane over, which is really cool to see, because, you have Superman, this incredible guy, and he could easily just flash the S and be like, yeah, you're with me now. Well, instead, he decides to go through all the trials of having to be Clark Kent and getting her. She did not know he was Superman until after she had a ring on her finger, and I love that fact about Superman. But in all the movies and like cartoons and stuff, that hasn't really happened. But here, it didn't happen again. So I didn't like that. I wish they would have had her not know who Superman is. That would have made it more interesting to me. Now, also on the topic of Clark Kent, people did not like the fact that the glasses were back, and I'm just like, to those people, get over it. It's Superman. It's classic. Having Clark Kent wear glasses is classic. Now, I do understand with the fact that he didn't change his hairstyle, like, at all. It was literally like Superman with glasses. He didn't change his hairstyle or anything. I wish he would have done that, but besides that, it's Superman. Get over it. This is classic Superman. You're going to have Clark Kent with glasses. That's just how it is. You need to deal with it, and I'm glad they stuck to it. I really am, because they could have easily changed it to something stupid, but they didn't. They decided to stick with classic Superman, and I love the fact that they did that. The rest of the Daily Planet crew was alright. I really liked Perry White. I thought Morpheus did a good job playing him. Yes, Lawrence Fishburne, but he's Morpheus. He did a great job playing him. Everyone else, like Ginny, she was just a throwaway. Same with Lambert. But Lambert, well, I kind of like Lambert at times. And you had the other supporting characters, like the Air Force captain. He was really good. I liked him. You had the General Swanwick. Yeah, Swanwick. He was really good. I liked him. And I love seeing when Superman gave himself over to the military. He's like, okay, I need to take this leap of faith. And then when he told him, he was like, you don't control me. That's why you're afraid of me. And you'll never will control me. And I love seeing that. That is the Superman I know, not some Dark Knight Returns crap where he's like, yes, I do whatever the military tells me. No, this was the Superman I know and love. He's like, I do what's in the best interest of the people. I don't listen to governments. I don't listen to you guys. I do what's right. And I thought that was amazing. I loved seeing that. Superman just telling him outright who he is and what he does. Now, what about the world? Because a lot of people hated the fact that Man of Steel was so dark, and they thought that Superman was just brooding, and Superman's not supposed to brood. That's Batman's thing. Superman shouldn't do that. Well, the simple answer is Superman wasn't brooding. I don't know what people are watching. The world was incredibly dark, but they just took the Superman I know and love and threw him in there. Now, what people think is brooding is just Superman not saying anything. The thing is, if you read the comics, when Superman is by himself, which he was for most of this movie, he's not talking or constantly cracking smiles. There's thought bubbles, and you're constantly being updated about what's going on inside this guy's head. Well, you can't exactly have thought bubbles in a movie. That's the problem with converting comics to movies. You can't do that. You can't have, Henry Cavill just doing a voiceover, being like, well, now I'm thinking this. Or Superman can't be talking to himself. That's just stupid. So that's the problem with that. And because when Superman's by himself, what's he going to be doing? He's thinking. Well, you can't display what he's thinking in a movie. And that's why people are like, well, he's brooding. That's Batman's thing. He's not brooding. And Henry Cavill did a great job with the facial expressions for the fact that he wasn't talking for a lot of it, of showing what he was feeling at that time. Henry Cavill did a great job with that, and I loved seeing that. Also, the thing that I really loved about this world was it was realistic. There were consequences, this is what I don't like about a lot of the Marvel movies. Post Disney, when Disney took over, there's no consequences for anything. Coulson died? No, he didn't. Nick Fury died? No, he didn't. No one died in Avengers. Not one person. Even when all these aliens are smashing up buildings, everyone's fine. The aliens didn't really even do anything. They corralled people in a building, and then they didn't do anything to them, and Captain America and everyone just murders them. These aliens didn't really do anything but crash into buildings. They caused property damage. Not one person died. And then same thing for every other Marvel movie. There's no consequences, to where in this there are consequences, and I really liked seeing that. And it also addressed what some people think is boring about Superman. There's no consequences for Superman. He always wins. He always saves everyone. Well, this time he doesn't, and people are still pissed about it, which makes no sense. He's not able to save people because this is a more realistic world. He can't be in two places at once. He's not able to save everyone, and I love this world. I love seeing a world with consequences. It was so good. It was saying that there is stuff with long-lasting effect, unlike the Marvel movies where stuff is just like fixed and fixed easily. Again, Coulson died. Well, he's back in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury died. Well, nope, he came back in the same movie. Who really bought Nick Fury dying anyways in Winter Soldier? Because as soon as he died, I turned to the person next to me. I was watching the movie list. I said, when do you think he's going to come back in the movie? Because I knew he wasn't dead, because I know how Marvel movies work. There are no consequences. To where in Man of Steel, it's like, holy crap. I know nothing's going to happen to Superman. I know he's not going to die because this is the first movie. So obviously in the first movie, they're not going to kill off the hero. But a good example is Iron Man 1. Iron Man 1, there was actually consequences. Like, there was the fact that Iron Man had his whole heart, taken out. That was kind of big. He had shrapnel. All those military people died. Iron Man 1 had a great tone, and I feel like Man of Steel matched the tone of Iron Man 1. Just not as much jokes because, again, Superman didn't really have anyone to joke around with. There was no Jimmy Olsen. There was no Batman. There was just no one. So, yeah, that's what I really liked about this world. But if you compare it to the Marvel world, again, post Iron Man and Incredible Hulk, there's no consequences for anything. Everything is just fine. And I don't really like that. There have been some consequences with the fact that, like, Winter Soldier, S.H.I.E.L.D. was taken down. But then again, S.H.I.E.L.D. was Hydra, so Hydra just took themselves out. So just bad guys got taken out. There are some consequences with Winter Soldier, but that was it. Like every other Marvel movie, there's not. And even in Winter Soldier, there was, like, none. Not bashing on those movies, I'm just saying that's something that I really like that Man of Steel did that Marvel movies are not doing, is the fact that there's no consequences in those movies. But let's move on to the villains in this movie. Faora, people loved Faora, myself included. I thought Faora was great. She did a great job. Like, the character was great at being the person you love to hate. Like, I wanted Superman to punch her in her stupid face so many times because I was like, I just hate this person, but in a good way because it's like the villain that you're not supposed to like. And I loved Faora in that. And she was like so evil and just awesome. When she took out all those soldiers, moving the way you think someone with that power would, that was awesome. Because before you see people with this power and they just like kind of sidestep it and it's stupid, but Faora, no, she's straight to the point with what she does. Besides, like with the Air Force guy when she gave her whole speech first. But with those other guys, that was awesome. That was so cool to see. And then Zod. Zod to me is the most underrated villain in superhero movie history. He is so good. Michael Shannon did a great job at showing a guy that has lost his way. And it was so good because Zod had a very good, in my opinion, character progression from beginning to end. Because at the beginning, he's, he takes over old Krypton. He's like, we can save this, Jor-El, join me. And Jor-El's like, no, you're going to become a dictator. I'm not going to help you. Because Zod was one of the few people that was realized that, hey, Krypton's exploding. And then, he gets sent to the Phantom Zone. Prior to that, he's like, I will find you. I love that part where he's like, I will find you. And it showed he's losing, each step of the movie, he's losing more and more of himself. He's becoming crazier. And then, by the time you get to the end, he has just lost it. He's nuts, so he is gone because he's lost all his people. And that final speech, right before the final battle, amazing. Gives me chills every time I watch that scene. When Zod just looks at Superman, he's like, my soul, that is what you've taken from me. My whole goal was to protect my people. That was my purpose. I have no more people. You've taken my soul from me. I was like, holy crap, that part was awesome. And then mid-fight, when he learns to fight, and he just gives him another little speech, he's like, where'd you train at farm? That was just so good. I loved that scene. It was amazing. My favorite scene, not my favorite scene in the movie, but one of my favorite scenes was definitely that speech by Zod. That was my favorite speech of any supervillain ever. It was so good. Well, I mean, in movies. It was so good. Just go back and watch it on YouTube. Just search it up. It's like the fight, because prior to it, that speech where he's just there and he's lost everything. He's holding the dirt in his hand of like what used to be the world engine. He's just like, Krypton's gone. Our hope's gone. We can't rebuild Krypton. So I'm just going to kill you because that's all I can do. It's Zod. Like, Michael Shannon showed you a guy who had lost his way. And also Zod was a bit more relatable of a villain. Obviously not completely like, yeah, I could see myself destroying the world. No, and the fact that this was a guy who had a purpose and then his purpose got taken away and he just went crazy. Unlike like other villains, to where it's like, well, you don't know why they're doing this. You don't really see their motive. They're just doing it because they can. Zod had a purpose. You knew his motives. You knew why he wanted to do that, and I thought that was interesting to see because we hadn't been really seeing that in a superhero movie in a while. So yeah, I thought that was cool. Now back on the note of the tone of this movie. I love the tone because they did not change Superman to fit the tone. They threw Superman into a darker world. They did not make Superman change for the world to fit the world. They just threw him in there. The Superman I know and love, the classic Superman, they threw him in there, and we had to see him deal with these darker things that you normally wouldn't see him have to deal with. I loved that. I love seeing this guy this character that I've grown up with, just have to adjust to the world. Well, like, he didn't really adjust. He was still Superman, but having to deal with things in a darker world. And I loved how they did that, and I thought it was executed great. But what about the fight scenes? The fight scenes are as divided as the movie itself is. There's people who love it, there are people who hate it, who like, what about the property damage? What about the fact that Superman killed so many people because, he probably killed more people than Zod? Actually, no. If you watch the fight scene in the Metropolis fight, Superman, the only property damage he really causes is when he takes down Zod's ship, and then when he takes Zod's face and smashes it into glass. Every other building that he's sent into by Zod. Zod punches him through it, or he flies him through it. It's not Superman doing it. The only there was that part where Zod kicks the gasoline truck and Superman just flies over it instead of stopping it. But I'm assuming that's because no one's just sitting in a car garage. I think that's why. I don't think people are just like, you know what? The best place to watch a Superman versus Zod fight, a car garage. Let's just sit here. No, I don't think people are just sitting in a car garage. What the heck is it really called? Whatever. I'm calling it a car garage. I think it's called something else. But for some reason, I'm dumbfounded at what it's called. Anyways, the fight scenes were awesome. Now, in Smallville, he did cause some damage by, going into an IHOP and punching, that guy threw it into a train that was completely empty. But I did not see Superman kill one person. I didn't see anyone die as a result of Superman's actions. Yes, he did cause property damage. Not as much as Zod, though, because a lot of the damage was caused by the terraforming and also Zod punching Superman through buildings. Superman didn't really punch Zod through any buildings. Yeah, the fights were awesome. That Smallville fight between Superman, Non, and and Faora was amazing. It was so good seeing Superman take on these two people and have to fight these two military-trained people. And then when Faora gives her speech to him about evolution, and he finally just punches her, and he uses his heat vision. He uses his advantage of the fact that he knows how to use his powers better than they do, and it was awesome. And at the same time, while he's fighting, he's also saving these military guys. It was so cool. It was Superman. Again, this is Superman I know and love. When they, what was it? When the guy falls out of the helicopter, Superman's having to fight Non, and then he's like, oh crap, that guy's falling out of a helicopter. I should probably save him. He saves him, and then Non comes and just punches him. And then he has to go and he deals with Non, and then he sees Faora's about to kill the Colonel, and so he runs over there and punches Faora. It's just this is so cool. Superman, he's dealing with all this stuff that's going on. It is, again, this is the prime example of a Superman I know and love having to deal with real-world consequences. Because generally, the lighter Superman's they only want to attack Superman. They don't care about causing damage to other people. They just want to attack Superman. Well, in this, they're killing everything. And Superman has to stop them and deal with it. It's oh, crap. I have to save these people and fight these guys. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Also, this is an untrained Superman. This is not the 75 years Superman. This is not the Superman that's been doing this forever. This is a brand new Superman. He just learned to fly the other day. He's never thrown a punches in his entire life. How's he going to calculate when he punches someone how far they're going to go, where they're going to go? He can't exactly adjust and move around and be like, hold on, Zod, I have one shot to punch you, otherwise you're going to hit me, but let me just move around this way to, this angle and then punch you so that way you don't hit that building. No, he can't do that. Otherwise, Zod's just going to destroy him. He's fighting military trained people where he's never been trained in his life or never thrown a punch in his life, just learned to fly. He's going to take every chance he gets to fight to get his hits in. He has to. He's an amateur. That's what he is. The only advantage he has is that he knows how to use his powers better, and he's maybe a little bit stronger because of the fact that he's been soaking in the sun. But they sort of caught up because of the fact that they are adults. He's been soaking in the sun from when he was little. You know, he hasn't been an adult for too long. Obviously, he's 33, so he has been an adult for a good amount of time. But you know what I'm getting at. The fights were amazing. Like, I watched this at the midnight premiere. Like, the first time I ever saw it was at the midnight showing in like a 6-story IMAX screen. It was amazing. It was so cool watching this fight and the sound, and even watching it today just on my TV at home. The fight is amazing. Every time, I can't help but crack a smile when I watch this movie or when I watch the fight scenes. Like, I'm seeing Superman fight. I've never seen that before. Like, even though, you know, cartoons, we see it, but he just gets his butt kicked. And then, like, in the old movies, those were terrible with the fight scenes. Superman Returns, he never fought. I'm finally seeing Superman fight. It's not just in a cartoon or a comic. It's actual on-screen live action. Superman is fighting people. He's flying around. He's using his heat vision. He's punching guys. This is awesome. And then even if you get all, like, all fine into it, like, oh, well, what about the little fine details? What about this? Well, Superman did this. He didn't kill anyone. He didn't. All of his actions were to save people. The only time he even did anything that might have resulted in anything close to someone dying was when he took down Zod's ship, and that went through a building. But again, I don't think anyone was inside that building. The only time you really saw people inside a building was when, like, people were hiding inside the museum. That was it. No one was really hiding inside those tall buildings because they're like, hey, museum's over this way, kind of away from the fight, and, you know, it's in a lower area. It's not in a tall skyscraper, so people were hiding in there. It made sense. No one was like, hey, let's go to the top of this skyscraper, because that makes sense. No, people are going out of there. Like when you saw that one time when Zod and Superman went into that building, then Zod, like, jumps out, Superman has to fly out. No one was in that building. I think that was showing, hey, this is kind of the case with every building. So, yeah, no one died because of Superman's actions that I can think of. I just watched the movie, and I don't remember anyone dying. I know on screen they definitely did not show it. If someone did die for Superman's actions, it was, like, implied. It was like, well, maybe someone was inside there. No one actually on screen died from Superman's actions, to where plenty of people died from Zod's actions. This was still a Superman I know and love, saving people and fighting guys at the same time. And I don't know, like, even these, like, real persnickety people, if you can just enjoy the fight for what it is, which is two very powerful godlike people fighting, you will enjoy this fight and just seeing, like, it is a Superman's fan's dream to watch this fight. We've been waiting for this for so long. We finally get to see Superman let loose on screen, and it is just incredible. It is so awesome. That's the word I keep gravitating to, because it explains the fight scene great. And then I remember when I came out of the movie, I saw reviews, and people were like, there's too much fighting, doesn't give you a chance to breathe. I'm like, what? What is your problem? How could someone, like, say that? It gives you plenty of time to breathe. And if there is a Death of Superman movie, oh, these critics are going to be really pissed. Because that Death of Superman book is like 10 times more fighting than there was in Man of Steel. There's way more action in the book. So if they make a movie out of that, oh, people are not going to like that, because there's going to be so much action. It's non-stop with the action in that in the book. So if they make a movie about it, people are going to be mad. The fight was also very realistic. This is what you would think would happen when two godlike characters fight each other, and just massive destruction. This is what would happen. A lot of people are saying, well, Superman should have taken Zod out to outer space. That was very irresponsible of him. He tried that. Did you not see? He tried that. Zod sent a satellite into him. He tried to take Zod to space. It didn't pan out for him. He got a Wayne Tech satellite to the face. It didn't work for Superman. So that's because Zod is a competent being. Superman can't just grab him by the hair and, like, come on, Zod, let's go to space and fight so people don't get hurt. He can't do that. A prime example of this is Superman Batman Public Enemies. When Superman from the future comes back, he tries to kill the past Superman and Batman, and so Superman's like, crap, stuff's getting destroyed, Batman's in danger. So he tries to fly out to like a desert, well, to wherever, to take damage away, and instead, the future Superman just grabs him by the cape and is like, no, I know what you're doing, you're trying to take me somewhere else so that way I don't cause as much damage. That's because that guy's a competent being. Superman couldn't just throw him away. Superman tried to lead him away, but he couldn't. Same with Zod. He cannot just throw Zod around like he's a little kid. He gets to be like, okay, Zod, we're taking the fight wherever I say. No, that's the same thing that I said before. These are not people that are looking specifically to attack Superman. They're trying to attack everything. Now, granted, Zod is more trying to specifically attack Superman, but he's also trying to cause him as much pain as possible, because Superman took Zod's people away from him, and Zod sees that Superman is more human than he is Kryptonian, so these are his people. He's trying to take his people away from him. That's why he's killing so many of them. That's what's awesome. That's also what made the Superman vs. Doomsday fight in Death of Superman so unique, was you had a Doomsday who was just trying to destroy everything in his path. He wasn't specifically trying to attack Superman. I think Man of Steel drew inspiration from Death of Superman because, like I said before, you have Kryptonians attacking everyone, not just specifically Superman, and that's a kind of a big deal. And there were people asking the question, hey, why wasn't Superman saving people? He didn't have a chance to do anything but fight Zod. If he tried to get away from Zod, Zod was just constantly pounding on him. He didn't have a chance to do anything but fight Zod. All he could do was fight back. Like, there were just milliseconds where he wasn't fighting Zod. The only time he really wasn't fighting Zod was when Zod took down that building with his heat vision and Superman had to escape it. That was it. Like, Zod was constantly attacking him, pounding on him. There was nothing Superman could do to save people. He couldn't, because Zod was constantly on his case. Superman couldn't do anything. Now let's talk about Superman killing Zod, because that is one of the most controversial things, probably the most controversial thing that happened in this movie, was Superman killing. He took Zod's life. And so, yeah, one of the things I found really interesting that Max Landis said, Max Landis is the writer of Chronicle. He's a big Superman fan. He wrote, 2 issues of The Adventures of Superman, which is, an out-of-canon storyline that happens in New 52. But anyways, he said that he believes if Superman knew the alternative to killing Zod was Zod killing a ton of people in all those buildings being destroyed, he would try to kill Zod almost immediately. And I agree with him there. I do believe that if Superman knew, what would happen, that he would try to kill Zod immediately. That being said, that doesn't mean he can. Superman is fighting someone who's fighting back. This is a military-trained guy that's just as powerful as he is. Doesn't mean just because he decides, hey, I'm going to kill Zod, he can't just immediately do it. He can't just go and be like, hey, Zod, I'm going to snap her. Oh, no, your neck snapped. He can't do that. It doesn't work like that. He's fighting someone who's fighting back. He's not just, fighting a little kid or something. He's fighting another Kryptonian that is military trained. There's nothing, he can try his hardest and then eventually maybe kill him, but at first it's not going to be millisecond and he's dead. It doesn't work like that. He's fighting another Kryptonian. A lot of people coming out of this movie got Batman and Superman confused, because a lot of people are just thinking, well, doesn't Superman not kill? He has that one rule about not killing. The Superman I know would never kill anyone. He doesn't do that. Psh, that's not Superman. Well, I can understand getting Superman and Batman confused. They're both vigilantes that punch people, but they are 2 different superheroes. Superman does kill, surprisingly, not too surprisingly, he does kill. He uses it as a last resort, though. He doesn't just go around killing everyone. Just like in Man of Steel, he uses it as a last resort. And I'm even holding one of the issues right in front of me right now. Superman issue 22, where he is holding a kryptonite box on the cover, and he's wearing an an executioner mask. And yeah, because he kills Zod and his cronies in this, because it's an alternate universe. It's still our Superman, just he's in an alternate universe, and he kills them because they killed everyone on that planet. They killed everyone on Earth in that universe. And so he kills them because he feels like he is judge, jury, and executioner now. And they've killed billions, so they deserve to die. He takes kryptonite and he kills them. He does the same thing in Death of Superman, which a lot of people are like, but that's the same as killing an animal. No, it's not. Doomsday is a living being that can talk and can think for himself. Superman killed him because there was no other way to stop him. There's no containing him. There's no throwing him in an asylum. There's no putting him in the Phantom Zone. You can't do it. Doomsday has to be killed. This guy is unstoppable, and so Superman killed him. Same with Zod. The end of Man of Steel, Zod's there, he's about to kill those people, and Superman has to make a decision. Either that family dies, yes, that family is stupid, they could just run out of the way, or a lot of people are like, well, why doesn't Zod just move his eyeballs and they're dead? The reason for that being, heat vision is a lot different in this movie. If you look, every time they use heat vision, it looks like there's an after effect. When they close their eyes after, they're like, it seems like it's strenuous on the eyes, and that's why every time you see them use it, they don't move their eyes around. They're always moving their head, because I don't think moving your eyes around is a smart idea, because if you move it somewhere, you could burn yourself. It just wouldn't work, and I don't think, because like I was saying, it seems to leave a little bit of an effect when they're done using it. Like, it hurts a little bit. So moving your eyes around would probably make it hurt even more. That's why every time they use it, they move their head around. So I'm assuming that's why Zod was using his head and not his eyes when he was going to kill that family. And Superman made a do-or-die decision, and I completely 100% agree with what Superman did, and that is what Superman would do. That's what the Superman I know and love would do. He would not let that family die just so he could live. Now, what about those people who are like, well, Superman could have, he could have choked Zod out. He could have done that. And then what? What would happen? Where would you hold Zod? You can't throw him in the Phantom Zone. Superman doesn't have anything to hold him. The government doesn't have anything to hold him. Assume you do have something to hold him. Then what? What do you sentence him to? You just throw him in jail for the rest of his life after he's committed mass murder? Or if he gets the death sentence, what are you going to kill him with? You're going to call Superman back and be like, hey, this guy got the death sentence. You're the only one who can kill him. Could you snap his neck for us? What is going to happen? What do you think's going to happen? Also, remember, in that IHOP, I think it was in the IHOP, but yeah, it was in the Smallville fight between Superman and Faora. Faora tells him for every one person he saves, they will kill 1 million more. Meaning they will not stop until everyone on Earth is dead. Why would Superman keep those people alive? Why would you keep those people alive? There was no point. Superman still wanted to because it was the last of his race. Every time he fights someone, Max Landis also said this, which I completely agree with. He's saying when Superman fights someone, he's trying to save them from themselves. And you could see that with Zod. That's why he's like, don't do this, Zod. He wanted to. Even though Zod, had killed so many people and was crazy, he wanted Zod to come back to reality. He wanted Zod to be normal. He wanted Zod to be like him. He was trying to save Zod from himself, and then he had to snap his neck. He had to. That was the one thing, like, he didn't want to do, but he had to. And then you saw, when he killed him, Henry Cavill, like, did a great job with showing how Superman was during that. He was bawling. He killed the last person of his race, because the other guys are in the Phantom Zone. He's just freaking out. This is his first time taking a life. He's not used to this. And it's not just like, he took a life by, like, shooting him. No, he physically snapped his neck. That's kind of brutal. You'll hear the bone snap, and it was a very satisfying ending to an amazing fight. My favorite fight in any superhero movie. It was amazing. And, like, the ending was so satisfying with the fact that Superman did kill Zod. And to me, if he would have locked him up, it would not have been a satisfying ending. It would have been stupid. And just been like, well, cool fight, but Superman just threw him in jail? What? That's kind of stupid. No, he killed him because he had no other choice. The fight scene was amazing, and the ending was fantastic. That is my favorite scene in any superhero movie ever. It is so emotional and intense and amazing, and right before it, you have the best fight scene in any superhero movie ever, and then the best scene in any superhero movie ever. That is just fantastic. How did they pull it off? I don't know. It was amazing. You have this incredible fight between these two godlike characters that ends in this emotional, intense scene where Superman has to make a do-or-die decision of whether or not this family's going to die and Zod lives, or he kills Zod and that family lives, but he has it in his conscience with the fact that he just killed a guy straight up with his bare hands. It's the last guy of his race. He's just the last one now because he killed Zod. That is huge. And then you have these nitwits complaining about it, saying Superman never kills. These people have never picked up a comic book in their life who just believe, hey, I saw, like, the first Christopher Reeve movie, Superman doesn't kill. Well, guess what? Superman 2, he killed Zod. He just straight up killed Zod and had a smile on his face. Lois killed, what's her name? I don't remember her name. That's just, but with Henry Cavill and Man of Steel and everything, everyone just gets all mad about it. It makes no sense. Why would you be mad with the fact that Superman killed a mass murderer who was about to kill a family, and this is in Superman's character to do so? It's not like he's never killed ever before. It's not like he has a rule about killing anyone. He doesn't. He will kill. He just uses it as a last resort, and this was a last resort. And the setup could not have been more perfect for what happened. It was fantastic how everything went down in that scene, and everything that happened prior to it was great. And the death of Zod could not have been done better. I mean, it was just amazing. But that's just my thoughts. That is why I love Man of Steel, and that's why it's my favorite superhero movie of all time. Now, I know Man of Steel is not perfect. I'm not blind to it. I see it does have its plot holes and things, but I still love it. There's no perfect superhero movie out there. Just look at Avengers and Dark Knight, which I believe are the two holy grails of superhero movies, and I believe most people will agree with me there. everyone just looks up to those like they are great. They are great. I love both of them, but they're not perfect. Avengers, for instance, the plot was terrible. Look at the plot. The plot is Loki mind controls people, and then goes and lets aliens into Earth, and then the aliens get defeated Phantom Menace style. That is the plot. That really is it. But that's not why you watch Avengers, because Avengers' plot was terrible. The reason Avengers was great was the characters were great. Besides Hawkeye, the characters were great. Their chemistry was great. You had cool fight scenes. You didn't watch it for the plot, because the plot was bad. The plot was just not good. But a lot of people overlook it, myself included, because the character moments were so good, and you got to see the Avengers team up, and it was awesome, and it just made you feel all good inside. Even though it had major problems with the plot, the good just overwhelmed the bad. That's why you love it. That's why I love it. Dark Knight, very end. Why did Batman take the blame? He could have blamed it on Joker. Everyone would have bought that. Joker was doing bad stuff the entire movie. But instead he's like, you know what? I'll take the blame. That made no sense. No superhero movie. No movie is perfect. But Man of Steel, that it doesn't matter. I still love Man of Steel. Even though it's not perfect, just like every other superhero movie is not perfect, I still love it. It's still my favorite superhero movie of all time. But yeah, that's the end of the podcast. Got to talk about Man of Steel for 45 minutes straight. So please rate this podcast on iTunes. It does help other people find us. The podcast, again, if you are watching on one platform and you want to know if it's on others, it is on iTunes, Podbean, and YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at @the_RCBG. And if you're watching on YouTube, I have a link in the description to follow me on Twitter. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to me rant about Man of Steel.